The data stream from Outpost Kepler-7 went crimson 3 minutes before anyone aboard the Sovereign Meridian understood what crimson meant. Lieutenant Commander Torvek watched the tactical display with the detached interest of someone who'd survived 42 neural combat simulations and exactly 0 actual firefights. Red usually meant bad. Crimson, apparently, meant catastrophic. Cascade event confirmed, announced Gravitational, the Ythran navigation specialist, whose name Torvek had learned to pronounce after sharing close quarters for 8 months. The insectoid alien's mandibles clicked in a rhythm Torvek had come to recognize as distress. Gravitational anomaly expanding at 0.37 light speed. Origin Kepler-7 stellar vicinity. Captain Ysolde Marrek stood from her command throne. A pretentious name for a chair, but the Galactic Concordat loved its formalities. Her silver hair caught the emergency lighting as she studied the data. Torvek had served under worse commanders. Marrek possessed the rare quality of listening before speaking. Casualties? She asked. 6 stations, 14 vessels, 42,000 personnel. Corvettes' voice synthesizer stripped away emotion, but his auxiliary limbs trembled. 73% non-human. The bridge fell silent. The Sovereign Meridian carried representatives from 11 species, all part of the Concordat's newest deep space exploration initiative. Humanity's admission to the Concordat 15 years prior had been contentious. Younger race, untested biology, concerning predatory reflexes. The usual bureaucratic hand-wringing. Analysis. Marrek commanded. Torvek pulled up the Cascade parameters on his auxiliary screen. Physics had never been his strength. He'd barely scraped through quantum mechanics at the academy, but even he could see the numbers didn't track. The gravitational shear should have dissipated after consuming Kepler-7's inner planets. Instead, it was accelerating, feeding on something invisible to their sensors. Dark matter interaction, offered Telchris, the Voith science officer. His gelatinous form pulsed orange concern. The anomaly is extracting energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations. It will consume this entire sector within 70 hours. Evacuation protocols. Marrek's voice remained steady. Initiated. But Telchris hesitated, his form flickering between orange and violet. The refugee vessels. They're fleeing directly into the Cascade expansion vector. Torvek pulled up the fleet disposition. 37 civilian transports, each carrying thousands, all burning maximum thrust away from Kepler-7, straight toward the expanding death zone they couldn't yet detect. Get them on comms, Marrek ordered. Emergency rerouting. Attempting. Corvettes' claws danced across holographic interfaces. No response. They've entered communications shadow from the gravitational distortion. The tactical display updated. Cascade boundary expanding. Refugee fleet status, nominal. Projected intersection, 41 hours. Torvek's fingers drummed against his console, an old nervous habit his combat instructor had never managed to break. He studied the vectors, running probability matrices through his neural implant. The math was brutal. Even if the fleet changed course now, the Cascade would catch them before they cleared the sector. Options, Marrek said. We run. That came from Subad Commander Torvek, a Draxian tactical officer, whose species had survived 3 extinction events through one simple philosophy: discretion over valor. Our drives can outpace the Cascade. We warn the inner systems. Evacuate we can. Abandon 42,000 civilians. Marrek's tone carried no judgment, just clarity. Abandon or join them in oblivion, Crash replied. His scaled hide had shifted to mottled gray resignation. The Concordat teaches acceptable losses. This qualified. Torvek watched faces and face analogs around the bridge. He saw the same calculation playing out across different biologies. The Ythran clicking anxiety. The Vol pulsing darker hues. The Sethic coiling tighter around their acceleration couches. Every species represented had survived cosmic-scale catastrophes by knowing when to preserve themselves over others. Evolution rewarded survivors, not heroes. Commander Torvek, Marrek's voice cut through his thoughts. Human assessment, he blinked. 37 pairs of eyes and sensor organs focused on him. Humanity's representative moment. We go get them, he heard himself say. Krillish's hide rippled. Confusion. Clarify, your statement contradicts survival probability. Yeah. Then it called up the Cascade data, already running intercept calculations. But we've got 4 human Corvettes in the sector. The Defiant Ember, Storm Chaser, Ironheart, and Valkyrie's Promise. If we coordinate 4 vessels against a gravitational anomaly consuming star systems, Corvastok's mandibles clattered. Human cognitive functions may require evaluation. Probably, Venick agreed. But here's the thing about humans. We're really bad at acceptable losses. He transmitted his calculations to the main display. It was insane. Completely, undeniably insane. The 4 Corvettes would need to enter the Cascade boundary, use their experimental void shields to create temporary safe channels, and shepherd the refugee fleet through a gauntlet of collapsing space-time. Survival probability, 4%. Success probability, 11%. Any rational species would have laughed him off the bridge. Marrek studied the numbers for exactly 7 seconds. Make it happen. Corvette Defiant Ember received the orders 3 minutes later. Say again, Meridian. Commander Torvek kept his voice level despite the ice spreading through his chest. You want us to fly into the thing that just ate 6 space stations? Affirmative, Ember. Venick's voice crackled through subspace interference. You'll lead the convoy. Storm Chaser and Ironheart take flanks. Valkyrie's Promise pulls rear guard. Korvac looked across his bridge. 23 human faces looked back. Young faces, mostly. The Concordat's human auxiliary fleet attracted the bold, the reckless, and those too stubborn to accept humanity's junior status among the stars. He'd been all 3 when he signed up. Skipper? That was Lieutenant Rice Kalen, his tactical officer. The kid was 24 and had a daughter he'd never met back on Earth. Void shields aren't rated for gravitational shear of this magnitude. I'm aware. We'll be torn apart, probably. So we're doing it? Torvak grinned. The slightly unhinged expression that had earned him 3 commendations and 5 disciplinary hearings. Kid, we're human. Doing stupid impossible things is literally our species' resume. He opened fleet-wide comms. All Corvettes. This is Ember. We've got 42,000 civilians about to become cosmic debris. Command wants us to fly into hell and bring them back. Anyone have objection? Storm Chaser here. Objection. We're not going fast enough. Let's move. Ironheart standing by. My engineer says this will probably work. He's drunk, but I trust his judgment. Valkyrie's Promise ready. Fair warning, if we die, I'm haunting all of you. Torvak felt something warm expand in his chest. Pride, terror, or possibly both. Then let's go be heroes. Or idiots. Honestly, same thing. The 4 Corvettes broke formation. Their exotic matter drives burning cold blue as they accelerated toward the Cascade boundary. Behind them, the Sovereign Meridian watched with sensors recording everything. For the inevitable inquiry, Torvak figured. Or the memorial service. The Cascade boundary hit them like a frozen hammer. Torvak's neural implant screamed warnings as gravitational tides compressed and stretched the Ember in dimensions that shouldn't exist. His bones felt like they were trying to occupy the same space as his organs. The bridge lights flickered between infrared and ultraviolet, painting everything in strobing nightmare colors. Shields holding, Kalen gasped. Barely, we're losing coherence in sectors 4 through 9. Route emergency power from weapons. Torvak's voice sounded distant to his own ears. We're not shooting our way out of this. The void shields flickered around them. Experimental tech that created bubbles of stabilized space-time. Humanity's contribution to Concordat science. Reverse-engineered from crashed precursor artifacts discovered in the Oort cloud. Every other species had studied the artifacts, cataloged them, and moved on. Humans had looked at impossible alien technology and thought, how do we make this do something useful? Now that stubborn pragmatism was the only thing between 42,000 civilians and obliteration. Refugee fleet on sensors, announced Navigator Sarah Kilbride. Distance, 80,000 kilometers. They still haven't detected the Cascade. Broadcast emergency vector corrections. Torvak ordered. All frequencies. They're not receiving. Kellen stopped. Wait. Receiving acknowledgement. They see us? They're, oh hell. Korvac pulled up the tactical display. The refugee fleet had finally detected the Cascade boundary. Their panicked course corrections were scattering them across millions of cubic kilometers. Exactly the wrong response. "They're rabbiting," he muttered. "Dispersing makes them impossible to protect. Can't blame them," Kalen said quietly. "Natural prey response when the predator appears." Torvek's jaw clenched. Predator response. Prey response. The Concordat divided species along those lines, as if evolution determined destiny. Humans occupied an uncomfortable middle ground. Omnivores with predatory instincts tempered by social cooperation. Dangerous, the Concordat had labeled them. Unpredictable. All Corvettes, Torvek transmitted. Split formation. Each vessel takes a quadrant. Herd them back together. Or turd. Storm Chaser's captain laughed. Like cattle? Like people who are terrified and need someone to show them the way out. Torvek corrected. Let's be that someone. The 4 human vessels split apart, their void shields creating expanding pockets of stable space. They moved through the panicking refugee fleet like sheepdogs, using their shields to nudge vessels back toward formation, their tight beam comms offering constant reassurance. "This is Corvette Defiant Ember. Follow our trajectory. We'll protect you." Storm Chaser here. "I know it looks bad, but we've seen worse. Trust us." Ironheart standing by. "My shield frequency matches yours. Lock onto it and don't let go." Valkyrie's promise, "At your 6, nobody gets left behind." "That's a promise we keep." Slowly, agonizingly, the refugee fleet began to cohere. The prey species heard the predator's voice and found something unexpected. Protection instead of threat. Torvek watched his shield integrity dropping. 60%. 50. The gravitational shear was intensifying, and they were still 90 minutes from clear space. His comm panel lit with an incoming transmission from the Sovereign Meridian. "Status, Commander. Shields degrading, casualties mounting. And I'm pretty sure I just hallucinated my grandmother offering me cookies," Torvek replied. "Standard human operation. Mission logs from the refugee vessels are showing interesting patterns." Venick sounded clinical, like he was reading a scientific paper instead of watching potential disaster unfold. "The Concordat species are displaying elevated stress hormones, impaired decision-making, and what psychologists call catastrophic cognitive freezing." "Makes sense. They're about to die. Except," Venick paused, "the human crew aboard those vessels. Their biometrics show stress, obviously, but also increased focus, enhanced reaction times, and coordinated problem-solving. It's like the danger made them sharper." Torvek understood. He felt it himself, that cold clarity that descended when everything went sideways. Other species' fight-or-flight responses shut down rational thought. Humans' response added a third option. Adapt. "We're wired wrong," he said. "Or right, depending on perspective." "The mission logs show panic," Venick continued. "Except in the human units. Those logs show preparation." The shields hit 40%. The Ember groaned around him, her hull singing in frequencies that made his teeth ache. "How long until we're clear?" Torvek asked Kilbride. "At current speed, 68 minutes. If we increase velocity, the refugee ships can't match our acceleration. We stay with them. 68 minutes. 40% shields." The math didn't work. Behind him, Kalen muttered something that sounded like a prayer. Kilbride's hands moved across her console with mechanical precision. The rest of his crew remained focused on their tasks, even as probability screamed they wouldn't survive this. Torvek opened fleet-wide comms one more time. "All vessels, human and otherwise. I know you're scared. I'm scared. Fear is just data. Information telling us the situation is serious. But fear doesn't make decisions. We do." He took a breath. 68 minutes to safe space. Keep formation. Watch your neighbors back. And remember, we don't leave people behind. That's not tactical doctrine or Concordat regulation. That's who we are. Silence answered him for 3 heartbeats. Then, one by one, acknowledgments flooded the channel. Not just from the human corvettes, but from the refugee vessels themselves. Prey species finding courage in the predator's promise of protection. Torvek settled back in his command chair and watched the Cascade roar around them like a living thing. 67 minutes to go. The shields hit 35%. The Cascade boundary released them like a reluctant predator dropping prey. One moment the defiant ember shuddered through space-time that folded wrong. The next they burst into clear vacuum, and Torvek's sensors suddenly remembered how physics was supposed to work. "Status," he barked. "Shields at 8%, Kalen reported, his voice hoarse. "Hull integrity 72%, void drive offline for repairs. We're alive. Refugee fleet." Accounting now, Kilbride's fingers flew. 36 of 37 vessels confirmed. One transport, the Gentle Dawn, lost main engines inside the boundary. Valkyrie's promise is towing them clear. 36 out of 37. Torvek closed his eyes briefly. Over 41,000 souls survived. The math had predicted complete loss. Humans had looked at that math and said, "Not today." Storm Chaser. Ironheart, Valkyrie's promise report. "Storm Chaser here. We're beat to hell but flying. My medical bay is treating 70 refugees who jumped ship when things got rough. They'll make it." Ironheart functional. "Hull's got more holes than integrity, but we're maintaining pressure." Engineers sobered up and is very concerned about what we just did. Valkyrie's promise, hauling freight. "The Gentle Dawn lost propulsion, but everyone aboard is safe. Also, I'm officially never doing that again. Twice. Maximum." Korvax felt laughter bubble up. The slightly hysterical kind that happened when you'd just survived the impossible. "Excellent work, all vessels. Stand down from emergency protocols." His con panel chimed. Captain Marrek's face appeared, her expression unreadable. "Commander Torvek. Status? Mission successful, Captain. 41,216 civilians extracted. 4 corvettes operational despite severe damage. 0 fatalities among vessels under our protection." Marrek nodded slowly. "The Concordat Council is convening emergency session to analyze the Cascade event. They'll want testimony from all commanding officers." She paused. "They'll also want to understand why human units succeeded where probability models predicted total failure." "Simple answer, Captain. We didn't know any better than to try." "That's not an answer that satisfies scientific inquiry." "No," Torvek agreed. "But it's the truth." The Sovereign Meridian's briefing amphitheater had been designed to accommodate multiple species' environmental needs. Atmospheric niches for the methane breathers, pressure tanks for the aquatics, neural dampening fields for the telepaths. Vanek stood in the human section, standard pressure, standard atmosphere, and watched the Concordat Analysis Committee filter in. 12 species, 47 individuals, all wearing expressions or biochemical signals of profound confusion. Committee Director Vistal, a Yithran elder, whose carapace bore the scars of 3 colonial wars, activated the central display. Mission logs scrolled past raw biometric data from every vessel involved in the Cascade extraction. "The data presents a paradox," Basatel began, his synthesized voice carrying perfect Concordat standard inflection. "During catastrophic gravitational event, crew performance across species demonstrated predictable patterns." He highlighted several graphs. "Elevated stress hormones, impaired decision-making, reduced motor control, cognitive freezing, all consistent with known fear responses." The display shifted to new data, highlighted in distinctly human red, except this subset. Human personnel across all vessels and situations. Vesidal's mandibles clicked slowly. "Elevated stress hormones, yes, but also enhanced focus, improved reaction time, increased problem-solving capacity. Coordinated team performance despite communication degradation." A Draxian analyst raised one clawed hand. "Are we suggesting humans do not experience fear?" "No," interjected Telchris, the voice science officer from the Meridian. His gelatinous form pulsed analytical blue. "They experience fear. They simply process it differently." "Elaborate." Telchris pulled up neural scans. "Most sapient species evolved fear as a survival mechanism. Threat detected, adrenaline released, immediate response, flee or fight, higher cognitive functions subordinate to instinct." He highlighted human neural pathways. "Humans evolved fear response." "Yes, but also evolved metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. They experience fear, recognize fear, and then decide how to respond to fear." "That seems inefficient," observed a Sethic committee member. Deliberation during crisis reduces reaction time. Unless Venick spoke up, drawing attention, the crisis requires complex problem-solving rather than simple reaction. Then deliberation becomes advantage. Tal regarded him with compound eyes that revealed nothing of thought. You propose humans evolved for different threat environment. We evolved on a death world, Venick said simply. Earth. Extreme temperature variance. Persistent predators. Regular geological catastrophes. Our ancestors survived by being adaptable, by looking at terrible situations and finding creative solutions. He pulled up Earth's historical data. Ice ages. Volcanic winters. Megafauna that could kill us in seconds. We didn't outrun them. We didn't outfight them. We outthought them. Turned environment against predators. Created tools. Formed cooperative groups. Made plans. Plans require time, Kralish countered. Crisis allows no time. Wrong. Commander Torvek had entered the amphitheater. Still in his damaged chipsuit. Crisis creates time. Or rather, human perception stretches time during emergency. Cognitive time dilation. We experience seconds as longer subjective duration, allowing more processing. He brought up his own neural records from the Cascade extraction. Watch this. 8-second period during maximum gravitational shear. My objective time experience, 8 seconds. My subjective time experience, 41 seconds. I had time to assess situation, consider options, make decision, implement solution. The committee members shifted, mandibles clicking, hides rippling, colors pulsing, discomfort at concept that shouldn't work but apparently did. This cognitive adaptation, Vestal said carefully, is universal among humans. Variable expression, but yes, Venick confirmed. We call it grace under pressure, staying cool or keeping your head. Cultural values reinforce the trait. We celebrate people who remain calm during disasters. Why? The question came from a young Vol scientist, her form flickering confused orange. Because, Torvek said quietly, someone has to. When everyone panics, everyone dies. But if even one person stays rational, coordinates responses, makes good decisions, that person can save everyone else. Predator protecting prey, Kralish murmured. The pack leader keeping the group safe. If you want to frame it that way, Venick allowed. But humans see it differently. We don't divide people into predators and prey. We divide them into those who help and those who need help. And we're all both, depending on circumstance. Vestal was silent for a long moment. Then, the mission logs showed panic across all Concordat species, as Cascade event unfolded, except in human units, where logs showed preparation, adaptation, and coordinated response. He looked directly at Venick. You're saying this is replicable, trainable. With limitations, Venick hedged. You can't remake species' fundamental neurology. But you can train response protocols that leverage human cognitive traits during crisis. To what end? Torvek smiled grimly. Director, the universe is full of cascade events? Metaphorically and literally. Natural disasters, equipment failures, hostile encounters. The Concord's current crisis response philosophy is preserve what you can, accept acceptable losses, prioritize high-value assets. Standard strategic doctrine, Kralish confirmed. Standard doctrine that left 42,000 civilians to die, Torvek countered. Until humans showed up and said, unacceptable. We're saving everyone. Not because we're special or noble, but because we're stubborn and stupid enough to try impossible things. The amphitheater fell silent. Finally, a voice from the back, Captain Marrek. The committee should review casualty projections for past decade of Concordat operations. Compare against outcomes had human tactical doctrine been implemented. Telchris's form pulsed rapidly, processing, then went still. Oh what? Demanded the Draxian analyst. I ran preliminary calculations. Telchris's voice carried something like awe. Estimated preventable deaths across past decade. Had human crisis response protocols been standard, 1.6 million sapient lives. The number hung in the air like an accusation. That's not possible, someone whispered. It's probability distribution, Telchris said, quietly. Humans succeed in low-probability scenarios by attempting them rather than accepting failure. Concordat doctrine avoids low-probability attempts to prevent total loss, both logical from different survival frameworks. But one framework saves more lives, Vanek stated flatly. Vestal's mandibles were completely still, the Yithran equivalent of deep thought. This committee convened to understand Cascade event. We appear to have uncovered more fundamental question. He looked around the assembled representatives. This Concordat was founded on principle of rational cooperation, species working together based on logical strategic assessment. Humans propose different model irrational cooperation. Attempting impossible because someone might survive. Not irrational, Torvek corrected. Optimistic. There's a difference. Explain difference, Torvek considered. Irrational ignores data. Optimistic acknowledges data but refuses to accept it as absolute destiny. We saw 4% survival probability and thought, someone's gotta be in that 4%, might as well be us. And if you had been in the 96%, then we'd have died trying to save people instead of living with abandoning them. Torvek met the director's compound gaze steadily. There are worse things than death. Like safety purchased with cowardice. The Draxian analyst's hide flushed angry crimson. You call survival instinct cowardice? I call abandoning 42,000 civilians cowardice, Torvek shot back. Your species survived 3 extinction events by running. Congratulations. Humans would rather die fighting the asteroid than let it wipe us out unopposed. That's suicidal. Maybe, Torvek shrugged. But we're still here, and so are 41,000 refugees who shouldn't be, according to your precious probability models. Vesatal raised one claw, forestalling further argument. Commander Torvek's point, crudely expressed, contains merit. Committee must assess whether Concordat's strategic doctrine requires revision to incorporate human cognitive frameworks. You're suggesting we teach other species to think like humans. The Yo scientist sounded scandalized. No, Marrek interjected. We're suggesting humans take point during crisis situations. Use their cognitive advantages when stakes are highest. Allow other species to provide different strengths during other phases of operations. Humans as specialized crisis response units. Vestal's tone carried calculation. Deployed when probability models indicate acceptable loss scenarios. Deployed when someone needs to do something impossible. Then it corrected. Which, given the universe we inhabit, happens fairly regularly. The committee members exchanged glances, chemical signals, and subvocalized communications. Vanek watched species-specific debate protocols play out. Orderly, rational, thorough. Slow. Humans would have decided by now, probably made the wrong decision, corrected mid-implementation, and had the job half finished before these committees stopped talking. Finally, Vestal spoke. This committee recommends formation of specialized Concordat Crisis Response Division. Primary personnel human. Support staff, multi-species. Mandate, intervention in low-probability survival scenarios deemed acceptable losses under standard doctrine. He paused. Colloquially, saving people everyone else has given up on. There's a word for that, Torvek said quietly. Yes? Heroes. Humans would view it that way. Kralash muttered. Reckless sentimentality. Reckless sentimentality that just saved 41,000 lives, Vanek reminded him. I'll take it. 6 weeks later, Torvek stood aboard the newly commissioned crisis resolution vessel Indomitable, watching construction crews from a dozen species install the final systems. Human void shields, Draxian armor plating, Yithran sensor arrays. medical facilities, the best of each species, coordinated by humans who specialized in doing impossible things. Captain Marrek had been promoted to director of the Crisis Response Division. Vanek served as her deputy. Torvek commanded the Indomitable with his old crew forming the core team. They'd already received 43 requests for intervention. Hostage situations, environmental disasters, shipboard emergencies. Each one classified as acceptable loss under standard doctrine, each one about to learn that humans didn't accept acceptable losses. Skipper? Kalen approached, datapad in hand. First official mission assignment just came through. What's the situation? Mining colony. Tectonic instability. Predicted collapse in 72 hours. Evacuation deemed cost prohibitive. 20,000 colonists recommended for memorial services. Torvek felt that familiar cold clarity settle over him. Recommended, huh? Standard doctrine. Good thing we don't follow standard doctrine. He opened ship-wide comms. All hands prepare for emergency deployment. We're going to save 20,000 people who don't know they can be saved yet. Survival probability. Someone asked over the channel. Torvek grinned. Low enough to be interesting. Which means it's exactly our kind of mission. The Indomitable's drives spun up. Exotic matter manipulating space-time in ways that shouldn't be possible but were anyway. Because humans had looked at impossible alien technology and made it do something useful. As they accelerated away from the station, Torvek pulled up the mission logs from the Cascade extraction. All that biometric data. All that psychological analysis. Mission logs showed panic except in human units. The Concordat had studied that data and drawn conclusions about human neurology. Evolutionary adaptation. Cognitive processing under stress. They'd missed the simpler truth. Humans were stubborn, sentimental, and too dumb to quit when smart species gave up. They looked at terrible odds and impossible situations and thought, someone should do something about this. Then they became that someone. Torvek closed the mission logs and focused on the viewport ahead where a mining colony full of people who thought they were dead waited to learn otherwise. Time to save some lives, he murmured. Behind him, his crew, human and otherwise, prepared to do exactly that. The Concordat would learn, eventually. Crisis didn't break humans. Crisis was what humans were built for. Millions of years of evolution on a death world had forged a species that thrived in chaos, adapted to disasters, and refused to accept that anyone was beyond saving. Other species called it recklessness. Humans called it Tuesday. The Indomitable jumped to void speed and disappeared among the stars, chasing another impossible mission, because that's what humans did.